let's go to let's do Penn State. I want to get your thoughts on this one before you got to get going here in a few minutes, because I think this is the most interesting game possibly out of the week in the Big Ten. Unless I'm forgetting about another one, which I might be. But Penn State traveling to Camp Randall. Penn State coming into this one undefeated, looking like a pretty good team in my opinion. And I want to get your thoughts on Penn State at large, because they play your Buckeyes in a couple weeks here. Could be a bit of a tricky game, especially Penn State coming off that big win against USC a couple weeks ago. This will be the 7:30 p.m. NBC, Peacock, whatever streaming thing you watch it on game. What are your thoughts leading into this big nighttime matchup?
Yeah, I think Wisconsin has one of the best offensive lines in the Big Ten, and that this is going to be a really good matchup in the trenches with Penn State, because you have Penn State with one of the best defensive lines in the country going against, like I said, this Wisconsin offensive line that has been very impressive this season. I mean, their pass blocking has been arguably the best in the country so far this year. You have Braden Locke back there who, he has some mobility, but I wouldn't call him a mobile quarterback, and he's able to, not be sacked nearly as much as some other players are. And as much as he does have his deficiencies at times, he looks a whole lot better because he's not being pressured as much. And so for me, Wisconsin needs to really solidify that this game and show that they are one of, if not the best offensive lines in the country with their pass blocking against Penn State in this one. And then on top of that, like, Wisconsin's defense has been lights out. Mike Tressel, I love what he's been doing with this defense the last 3 games. And I know people will say, like, oh, it was Northwestern. Well, guess what? Northwestern just put up 37 on the road against Maryland the week before last. So, like, this is not a bad Northwestern offense. Jack Lausch, he's a playmaker.
AJ Henning, Michigan has good wide receivers out there. They're just on other teams now.
Exactly. AJ Henny, Bryce Kurtz, like, these are playmakers on the outside as well. And Wisconsin, they shut them down. This is looking like the Wisconsin secondary that I thought they would be at the beginning of the season. It didn't look like it there for the first few games. I wouldn't say they were playing bad, but you just weren't seeing kind of the dominance out of the secondary that I thought you would see. But you have seen it these past 3 weeks between Rutgers, Purdue, Northwestern, which I get. People are going to say, oh, well, they haven't played anybody. Well, it's still the Big Ten, and this was still when Hudson Card was a quarterback for Purdue, who I don't think Hudson Card is a bad quarterback. I think, unfortunately, right now he has some bad pieces around him, which limits him. But at the end of the day, I do give Wisconsin their credit for shutting down those 3 teams. And if they can continue to do so against Penn State in this one, then we might be talking about a Wisconsin defense that's arguably one of the best in the Big Ten this season with what they've been able to do the past few weeks. And, I had another thought on this, and and the other part of it is, like, Andy Kotelnicki with Penn State as well. I don't think Penn State has the best playmakers in the conference, but you have arguably, I would say, he's the most creative offensive coordinator, which is saying something, because you have Chip Kelly in this Big Ten as well, and he's a very creative guy. But Andy Kotelnicki, with what he's been able to do with Tyler Warren and how he's utilized some other playmakers on this offense, it's been really impressive. So I'm really looking forward to this one, and I'm really looking forward to it, not just because of the matchups like that, but the fact that it's at Camp Randall. That is a huge benefit for Wisconsin.
Camp Randall at
night, it makes it an even more interesting game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be a really good test for Penn State. And Wisconsin, if only they could have kept it all together in that USC game a few weeks ago when they had that. Was it a big first half they had where it looked like they were going to pull it off?
They had like 3 turnovers in the first half.
Yeah, 3 like kind of weird turnovers. Yeah, and Braden Locke played good to start off that one too as well, though that D'Anton Lynn defense doesn't look like it's nearly that close to being there yet either. What is Wisconsin's record again? I'm missing
5-2.
I have it in my notes here. 5-2. It could be a 6-1 team. And yeah, I thought when they lost their starting quarterback earlier this season, I thought that was it for them. And Braden Locke has stepped in and played great. Like you said, that defense is playing really well. I will be curious to see, because I know they like to play a lot of they like to stay in a lot of 3-4 and stuff, don't they? And like play with 3 down linemen with like linebackers at edge and stuff like that. I really want to see what Andy Kotelnicki does against a defense that plays with that kind of scheme and likes to stick in it a lot, because I don't think Penn State has seen a defensive scheme like that. They see a lot of teams typical of modern football that stay in a lot of nickel looks, speaking of D'Anton Lynn and USC and stuff like that. So it'll be really interesting to see what Penn State tries to do in this game. Tyler Warren is just a mismatch for anybody right now. Like, you put a safety on him deep and he'll beat you. He runs out wide and you put a corner on him and he's bodying guys out. You run him in the Wildcat. A couple weeks ago, he snapped the ball and then on the same play caught a touchdown pass. Like the things they're doing with Tyler Warren are wild right now too. Probably one of the most fun offenses to watch in all of college football for me because I like a lot of that old like option stuff too and seeing the Wildcat and things. But it'll be really interesting. I do think Wisconsin has, in a way, especially with their linebackers. I detailed their linebackers in the offseason. They've got some fast, athletic linebackers that can run sideline to sideline. And if Penn State's doing a lot of that option stuff or trying to stretch things outside, I could see Wisconsin, again, tackling. Tackling will be a big thing. I could see Wisconsin maybe keeping this one close, but I could also see Penn State. You never know when Andy Koldenicki gets in his bag and is calling, plays, at his best. This team is really good. Really good.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think Tyler Warren is the piece that I am the most concerned for Wisconsin going up in this one. I know I just preached about how great this defense has been, and they have been great, but they haven't seen a tight end like Tyler Warren yet. If you ask me, the Purdue tight end, which I'm blanking on his name right now, he's Claire, I think it is. He's a good tight end, but he's no Tyler Warren, and I haven't seen exceptional coverage out of their linebackers this season. Allegro is their highest rated coverage linebacker on PFF. Yeah. So, he might be able to do that. But at the end of the day, Tyler Warren, I mean, for any team he faces, it's gonna be a huge daunting task for them to do. So I think Wisconsin, like I said, their defenses look much better. So if there's any defense that can get it done against Penn State, I think that they are one of the ones that can do it. I'm just really going to be looking at who is covering Tyler Warren in this one and what is happening with those matchups, because it could I won't say it's going to be another 200-yard game for Tyler Warren, because nobody should be
no 17 receptions for like 250 yards.
Yeah, it's not going to be that, but I could see Tyler Warren, being somebody they go to on third down here and there and keep the chains moving. So it's going to be huge for them to keep the ball out of Tyler Warren's hands on third down. And if they're able to do it, they got a really good shot in winning this one.
And yeah, I think that's true. But I also go back to, and maybe you as an Ohio State fan can provide some insight on this too. Julian Fleming has stepped up a little bit here in the last couple of weeks. They've had some wide receivers step up. Amari Evans was a guy that I remember a few weeks ago had a big game. It seems like every couple of games there's another wide receiver that Koldenicki's like, you're the guy this game. We're going to feature you. Like we found a way to, we like this receiver in this matchup or against this specific defense, and it's just, and the thing we haven't talked about either so far is Aller playing really well so far this season too. He's up in the top 5 in both completion percentage and pass efficiency in the country. And that's the completion percentage did not drop off at all from last season. And the yards per attempt went way up. I think he's up around 11 or 12 yards per attempt now. Last season, that was at like 6 or 8. It was pretty low because everything was dink and dunk. So it'll be really interesting. Wisconsin, I will say this for sure, that defense will be tested sideline to sideline and deep. Like Koldenicki's going to attack the entire field. So Wisconsin definitely needs to step it up. Defensively for Penn State, I think it's more simple. It's just get to Braden Locke, find a way to do that, find a way to rattle him. I don't think Wisconsin has any wide receivers that are really, they got a lot of slot guys, it seems like, and they don't really have any guys that'll test that defensive secondary too much. Just really curious.
Anthony could get loose and get a big play here or there and really help this team. He was able to do that the past 3 or 4 weeks. I'm forgetting exactly which opponents he was able to do that against, but he's been a name that I've heard once or twice and has been able to help this Wisconsin team. So if he's able to get loose and do some things, that'll be a huge boost for Wisconsin. And honestly, who doesn't like saying the name Vinny Anthony? That's an awesome
name. Right. That sounds like an East Coast, like, if he wasn't playing football, he'd be working in his dad's sub shop kind of name. I love it. Yeah. Well, that's really
one more thing I'll say. I'll say. I still see a lot of people doubting Drew Aller. Stop doubting Drew Aller. His ADOT, his average depth of target so far this season is 9.8. He is not just throwing dink and dunk passes. Hey. Drew Aller has been so much better this season, and he's been throwing the ball further, and it's really been a highlight for this offense to see him be able to do that. And it goes to show when you have Andy Koldenicki, somebody who is obviously believing in Drew Aller and giving him confidence for him to be able to do what he's doing. So I just wanted to say that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm glad you said it. I was one of the biggest Aller haters last year because I saw the way in which they were underutilizing him now, looking back on it. And I thought this kid was a 5-star coming out of high school. I had initially thought, you know how recruiting in high school really works is like if you blow up and get you grow 3 inches over the course of a summer and you get a big cannon for an arm, all the scouts are going to love you. And I thought that might have been the case with Aller, but like now you see the actual skill. And I'm glad you brought it up. He's playing lights out so far this season and is a big reason why Penn State has improved. I also did want to highlight this comment by Sean. Will Pauling is probably my favorite wide receiver Wisconsin has. I love his ability to work over the middle of the field and stuff. He's kind of a beast. Got that little bit of Steve Smith mentality I see out there. Very like obviously not on the same level, but Amon-Ra St. Brown kind of mentality there where he's just a dog. So Wisconsin does have some weapons. It's eerily similar to me though to the Illinois-Oregon game we just talked about. Do they have enough weapons to really test that Penn State defense? Because like Oregon, they got defensive playmakers at all 3 levels. They got AJ Harris came back and came over from I think it was Georgia and has been playing really well. Colby King at linebacker is a great linebacker, and obviously they got Abdul Carter and Donnie Dennis Sutton, who are probably the best edge pairing, if not one of the best edge pairings in the conference. So it'll be tough for Wisconsin to score a lot of points on Penn State, but I think it'll be a really interesting game nonetheless. Penn State, by the way, favored by 6.5 in that one on ESPN right now.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a really good game and a great one to end the night with at 7:30.